As a podcaster, you're always going to want to be improving and growing. And no matter what area of your show that you want to improve, whether it's the content or your presentation skills or your ability as an editor or perhaps the marketing and graphics, you're going to need to invest something. Today, I'm going to share a little bit about my journey over the last few years with the Engaging Missions show, sharing some of the investments that I've made, as well as a recent investment that I made that's really helped me edit podcasts faster and without sacrificing quality. What's happening, podcasters? This is 1000 Podcasters, and I'm Brian Ensminger. I'm a podcaster and a podcast editor, and I'm here to help you succeed with your podcast. Like I mentioned in the introduction, if you want to improve your show, you're going to need to invest, and that might give you visions of spending thousands of dollars, but the fact is, you may not necessarily need to invest money. There are different things that you can invest in, different categories of investments, and some of them might require money and some of them might not. For example, you could invest time into your show. You probably already are investing time. You could invest time in it. You could invest in technique, perhaps learning new skills or things like that. You could invest in tools, which might be microphones or interfaces, or perhaps different software, or you could invest in a team, which might be additional people to help you out. The thing is, making the right investment at the right time can help you significantly improve your show, and you can do it in some really creative ways. I'm going to share a little bit about my story. I launched the Engaging Missions show over 5 years ago now. When I launched that show, it was pretty much me and a microphone and my guests, and I would record on the computer and I would do my editing in GarageBand. I was using the stock plugins, which are not the best plugins. I shared a little bit about that on a previous episode, some of the challenges I had with that. And I had some skill, but frankly, when it comes to editing a podcast, I really didn't have enough skill. And after a while, I wanted to, I kept the show going for a while, which was great. But after a while, I knew that I wanted to improve the quality. And in particular, I knew that I wanted to improve the audio quality. I was thinking about both the recording, the editing, and the final publication. And then I also knew that I wanted to change up my interview flow a little bit better and do some better interview prep. And I also wanted to capture some time back. So I had some improvements that I needed to make that I knew would require some time. And I also wanted to get time back. So there was a little bit of a mismatch there. But the deal was, I felt like I was producing a show that wasn't as good as it could have been. And I'm absolutely right. It wasn't as good as it could have been. But I also felt like I was stealing away from my family. And I didn't really like that. And the fact of the matter was, I wasn't getting any better. And I was out of time. I didn't have anything else to invest in that. So I realized at that point that I had the option beyond myself to invest in 3 different ways. I could invest in people, which would be other people, my team. I could invest in skills, which would be technique, or I could invest in tools. Now, I knew that I couldn't invest immediately in tools, and I knew that I couldn't invest immediately in skills because investing in that would require some time. So I chose first to invest in some people. I brought a couple of people onto my show to help me produce it. I brought on Jeff, who helped me with the editing, and I brought on Gabby, who helped with the first pass of the show notes, capturing timestamps, some things like that. So I brought some people on, and that freed up some time. And then I also made an investment in some tools. I invested specifically in Hindenburg, which I think still is probably the best, or at least the most accessible way for most podcasters to create a high quality, professional quality show as easily as possible. Great piece of software. And then when the time was right, I also chose to invest in skills by attending Chris Curran's podcast engineering school. And following that structure, keeping Jeff and Gabby on and using Hindenburg and taking what I'd learned with podcast engineering school, that served me well for probably 3 years or so, but there have been some recent changes. For example, Jeff has chosen to leave the show. He had some other priorities. His business has taken off. He's been touring. A lot of great stuff for him. Super happy for him, but that meant that I needed to change some stuff. And then also I've been taking on more client work, and I was kind of sitting right on the bubble of my capability in terms of the time that I had available and some things like that. So I knew that I needed to get faster. And that brings me to the recent investment that I made. And I'm bringing this up because sometimes it's not a big investment. Sometimes it's a small investment. I'd been looking at this idea for a while and kind of putting it off because it was a little bit of money and I wasn't 100% sure if it was going to help. But the fact is, it did help. So I'm going to share it with you. I invested in a gaming mouse. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I was using an Apple mouse. Great mouse, worked great for me, but I wanted to find a way to do some things faster. And I thought, hey, if I've got one of these programmable gaming mice, then I can program it to do some of the most common things that I do so that I can keep my hands in place and I don't have to go looking for buttons to use keyboard shortcuts. Keyboard shortcuts still much better than using the menu, the drop-down menus, but I wanted to make it even faster. So I did a little research. I found a mouse that was reported to work well for a Mac because I'm an Apple guy. I picked up that mouse used on eBay because I wanted to save a little bit of money. I wanted to invest as little as possible in this and still get something. I got that mouse and I programmed it, and now I'm able to use that mouse to do some of the most common things. So I programmed the mouse buttons very specifically to do the things that I do the most commonly. For example, cutting or selecting regions or changing the speed. Some of the things I do all the time that I'm all over the keyboard with my left hand while I'm using the mouse. Now I can do them with my right hand using the mouse. So those were some things that I was able to do. And it's really, even though I can't quantify how much time it's saving me, I know that it's saving me time because I'm getting everything done and it's not taking as much time. Again, can't quantify it, but I think it's probably saving me more time than I would have expected. So I'm able to keep up with the shows. I'm able to still produce quality, the kinds of shows that I'm proud of, and I still have some time to spend with my family. So that's what I'm super happy with that investment. If you're looking to speed up your editing, might be something worth checking into, especially if there are keyboard shortcuts that you use all the time that are kind of slowing you down. Now, here's the question for you, though. Are there some areas of your show that you want to improve? There probably are. So I'm going to encourage you to take out a sheet of paper and write down areas that you'd like to improve, or perhaps roadblocks that you're facing, and determine how you might consider improving each of those by focusing on either tools, technique, time, or building a team. And then leave a comment. Let me know what you're working on and how you think it's going to help you. And then if you'd like to contact me or subscribe to the show, or if you're interested in perhaps setting up a consultation or having me edit for you, toptieraudio.com is the place for that. You'll find ways to subscribe. You'll find ways to connect, to send me a note, to set up a consultation, all of that stuff right there at toptieraudio.com. Thanks again. Now go out there and make a great podcast and make it faster.